just don't taste the same. What we gonna do at 10 p.m.? Gil, what's going on, sir? Man, happy Tuesday. Sir, I see that you have made it back. Well, listen, I am so glad that you guys have joined me. As usual, I'm going to wait a few seconds and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay. How y'all day going today? What y'all been up to? What's really going on your end? And I love hearing good news, by the way. Doing a paper. You can multitask like that, Gil? That's crazy. My mind doesn't quite work that way. I'm not as gifted in that area. Other areas, just not that. But that's what's up. I love hearing that. Okay, well, so research methods. I'm going to leave that to you because that's your thing. That's your thing. Okay, got it. Not multitasking. Heard that. Well, listen, y'all. So good evening. Happy, well, I guess it's not quite the middle of the week until tomorrow. But of course, I'm Dr. Nicole J, your confidence coach, helping you to find ways to improve and increase your confidence so that you can go after the life that you desire and you deserve. So today, oh my goodness, I'm so happy to have you here. I'm talking to everyone, but specifically, I'm seeing my friend who popped in really quick. Okay, so my quote for today is going to be from Zen Shin, and it says, "A flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms." Now, if you saw the flyer at all, you know that today we're talking about the comparison trap. So the reason why this quote is significant is because when we think about how capable we are at certain things, how qualified we are at certain things, but at the same time, sometimes we don't always know how gifted we are, right? And so it's common for a lot of us to compare ourselves to what other people are doing, to what other people have, and to what other people have accomplished. And I know we've all heard the saying that, we can admire where somebody is, but we have no idea what it took for them to get where they're at. So in whatever you're doing, whatever your gift is, whatever you're skilled at, just bloom there. We don't have to worry about what our best friend is doing, what this celebrity is doing, what other people, even in our same areas of expertise, are doing, right? Because we run our own race, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But as we talk, there's some questions that I want you to consider as we're starting off. So first, how often do you compare what you have, what you can do, or where you are in life to somebody else? Like, how often? And sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it, right? So I could easily say, like today, what did I do today? Yeah, so today I had a situation where somebody, one of my customers was like, and let me interject and say this here. Comparison is not always that I feel less than type of situation. Sometimes we compare ourselves to other people to make us feel better about ourselves. Like, I don't know if any of you have experienced any level of success in your career or in anything that you've done when you were in school, in academics, and you might have had a parent or a teacher say, "Man, you're so much smarter than so-and-so. Man, you do such a great job, not like so-and-so." Sometimes we can compare ourselves in order to boost our own self-confidence, but at the end of the day, that's still harmful because that means that we're using someone else's life as our measuring stick. And that can't bring us to our next level, right? That can only bring us so far, because what if they stop growing? Now we feel like once we have surpassed them, then we've made it. That's not it. So how often do you do that? Right? How does it make you feel when you compare yourself to somebody else? Like, does it make you feel like you've one up somebody? Like, you ever heard that saying before? Like, yeah, I got one up on him. Like, why is that significant? Why aren't you using the person that you were as a measuring stick? Why aren't you saying to yourself, well, last year I was in a really bad place, and this year I'm doing so much better. That Gil, that's so true. That is toxic when you feel like you have to outdo somebody else all the time. Even there's not an issue with competition, but it has its place. Your life is not a competition with other people's lives. That's not it. That's for sports. All right. So, question number 3, does it make you feel empowered or does it make you feel ashamed? Because if we're saying to ourselves that, if I just have what she has, if I just had that car, if I had a house like that. And for some people, that's motivation to be like, all right, I got to get on my grind. For other people, it's like, yeah, man, it's going to take me like 20, 30 years, or I'll never get there. Or I don't know if I have what it takes to get what they have. When it becomes like that, that's when it's toxic. So ask yourself that. And then fourthly, what would happen if you only compared yourself today to the self you were 2 years ago? What would happen? What would happen if you started saying, like, man, my goals are, and this is just an example. Man, I have a goal to be able to make $750,000 a year because I want to give. And so 2 years ago, I was only at 75,000. This year, guess what? I surpassed, and that's you telling yourself that I have benchmarks, right? I have goals that I'm achieving. And not only am I hitting those goals, I'm surpassing them. That's the difference between learning to accept where you are and grow from there, rather than saying, I don't know if I can make it past where this person is. Because we have no idea what somebody else is going through, has had to go through. And I'll tell you this, being a coach, but also being someone who is coached, you realize that somebody had to go through the process, the rigorous process, in order for you to have it easier. But that's also even not a moment to compare. People go through the tough process so that you can have it easier, so that you can do it and achieve the goal quicker, and so that you can find ways to bring others with you. So the thing about when you get a certain level of wisdom and knowledge, you start to understand that anytime that you feel like you have to compete or compare yourself to somebody else, that means you're not spending enough time focused on your goals. That means you're not spending enough time going after your own goals. Think about if somebody is walking on a tightrope, or even, I'll use the tightrope. All right. If I have goals, like, okay, all right, there's a certain number of steps, I want to be here. I need to, and you're thinking about your own progress. How would it look? How can I move forward? How can I progress if I'm looking to the left and the right to see how far they got? Yeah, I might see them out my peripheral. They're present. I'm not ignoring them. But I'm not looking and taking my eyes off my own prize, right? And James, you can definitely be competitive. There's not a problem with that. The competitive part, the issue with sometimes being competitive is the fact that if that's how you measure your success in your life, That's when that's a problem. Competitive with other people. You can always be competitive with yourself and with what you've accomplished and with what you desire to accomplish. And so, of course, the comparison trap is when you're constantly measuring your life against somebody else's. That's not to say we'll never we'll never admire what other people have or where they are or where they came from. But we can't get stuck there in our heads or in our lives thinking, why don't we have? Why can't I get? Why can't I accomplish what they have done? And so it's a trap, because when you get stuck wondering what somebody else is doing, it starts to shine. It starts to show in areas of your life, one, that you're not satisfied with yourself and with what you're accomplishing and how you're progressing. But it also shows it's also not reasonable and it's not logical, right? To feel like if I'm not what they say that I should be, or if I'm not somewhere when they said I should be there, then I'm a failure. And that's not the case. Oh my goodness, Miss Asia. I'm so happy to see you. James said, I'd fall unless I'm competing because I gotta win. And like I said, in sports, that definitely has its place. But in life, and some people call life a game, but in life, we can't spend our lives competing, right? Not in ways that matter, not in ways that determine whether or not we feel we're a success or a failure. Sunshine. And so we have to be able to focus on the outcome, on the process itself, and not just the outcome. And there's some of us that, and I remember when I was younger watching, I don't even know if this is still on. I obviously don't really watch TV much, but watching MTV Cribs, I remember watching that growing up, right? And thinking like, man, like, I wish I had a house to look like that. Like, what would I do if I had a mansion with 17 rooms and 15 bathrooms? Like, what would I do with that, right? But the people who have those things put in a lot of work to get it. While I'm sitting on TV doing what? Watching. I'm sitting on TV watching them enjoy the fruits of their labor. And so there's always work that's behind the scenes. Yes, a lot of cleaning also goes into having a house that large. That's true. But I bet they're not doing it. I bet they're paying somebody. I bet they're paying a company to do it. But yeah, so just focusing on the process and not necessarily the outcome, because we don't always get to see the behind the scenes. We're not always walking alongside. Rarely are we walking alongside those people as they're going after their dreams and goals. So if we spend our time focusing on what they have, we're missing the biggest point, which is to do the work. I remember having a mentor that told me consistently, if you want what I have, you have to do what I've done. And that's not to say I got to be like you, but that's to say I have to put in the work just like you put in the work in order to accomplish my goals. Coach Claude, I'm so glad to see you. And so what happens when we compare? What are some things? What? And I don't doubt that either, James. He said a lot of them, when I was talking about the houses, he was saying a lot of them were production houses and leased cars. That's probably very accurate. But for some of them, it probably was theirs. They probably paid cash, or they put down a very large down payment. We're not all there yet, but there's some of us who aspire to be there. We just can't get stuck looking at where they're at and then looking at where we're at and thinking, man, I'm failing in life because I'm not there. Welcome to the entertainment game. I'm not in that world, so I wouldn't know, but but still, we just want to be mindful of our vision and not allowing our vision to get skewed based on what somebody else is doing. So when we compare ourselves, these are some things that can happen, right? So we can get stuck in our heads I know I'm big on thinking. Like, I'm very introspective personally. And I'm always thinking about, well, what could I do better? What am I missing? What is there that I could be doing that I'm not doing? And because those of us who are very intuitive as far as ourselves, that can be a problem because we get stuck in our heads instead of deciding I'm going to take action so that I can get closer to the things that I desire. Another thing is we can become unmotivated. Have you ever seen somebody feel like they have so much they have to do or accomplish that they just decide to do nothing? Like, how many of us do that? And small example, sometimes I don't feel like cleaning the whole house, right? And I might look around and be like, I don't know, I had the craziest week. I'm just not in the mood. I just don't want to do it, right? And so we get like that sometimes, or we'll get so overwhelmed with all the things that we feel like we have to accomplish. For some of us, we might be writing a book. Some of us might be working on a program, or some of us might be working towards, something like James said, in the entertainment industry. And there are steps, right? There's an order of things, and we may feel so overwhelmed thinking that we have so much we have to accomplish to get there that we could just do nothing. And I know I'm supposed to be recording today, but I just don't want to do it. I'm just tired thinking about all the work that goes into it. Sometimes we might lack initiative when we start to compare ourselves to other people. And we'll think that things are just supposed to come to us. Like, man, I'm supposed to be working on this book, but I feel like it's just going to come to me in the right time. Because, my girl told me that when she wrote her book, she did it in 2 days. Guess whose journey that was? That was hers. And that was probably on a topic that she has been working on for years. But we don't see that side, right? We see the fast and easy way. We see the result. We see the short term, what seems like success or accomplishment, not knowing that it took a while to get there. Sometimes we can feel defeated, like we'll never get there when we start to compare ourselves. And that's very easy to do, especially for some of us that have been working towards certain goals for 10 plus years, 15 plus years. And I know a lot of, and this is just the most common thing that comes to my mind. Well, two things. One, I know some people that have been working towards being a doctor for a very long time. And not necessarily getting your PhD doctor, but like physicians. Like have been working for like 15 years after undergrad. Like, that's a long time. You're working towards your goals, but then you see your friends doing it faster. And you might start to feel defeated. Like, I don't know if I'm going to ever graduate. People in the music industry, I have several friends that have been working towards getting signed or getting record deals or becoming, a famous musician or star, singer or whatever, producer, whatever, and have been doing that for 20 years. That's a long time to be going after the same goal. But guess what? If you're hungry enough for it and you don't quit and you're doing the right things, it's yours. You just have to step in the right rooms to get it. And when you get in those rooms, you have to know that you belong there instead of looking around. James, don't say that. I'm not old. I'm not old. Don't speak that in my life. Okay. But, you just have to know that when you get in those rooms, that you belong there. And not only that, you can't cower because you see that other people have experienced success that you haven't seen for yourself yet. You just still have to know that it's coming and that you're in the right place at the right time. I hope that makes sense. For some of us, we start complaining, right? And especially when we feel like we deserve something that we haven't received. Y'all ever been there? Y'all ever felt like you deserved a promotion that you didn't get? You deserved the job that you didn't get? You deserve to be chosen for something that you were passed over for? And then we know the person that actually got chosen, that actually got in the room, that actually got the promotion. And we start comparing, well, what does she have that I don't have? What does he have that I ain't got? Y'all like that phrase? That I ain't got. And when we start to do that, so there are certain ways that that's healthy if it's helping us grow. Now, sidebar, it's not always fair. When we compare ourselves to other people, the answer to those questions, what did they have that I don't have? It's not always a fair answer. And we know that. We know that. Sometimes and I really don't want to go off into a tangent. Sometimes it's a skin tone issue. Sometimes it's a resume issue. And sometimes we're just in a place where that's not for us. It's something we want, but that's not for us. That's not where our purpose is. That's not the position that's going to take us to where we need to go. James said, plant Coke in their car. I'm going to stop reading your comments because you don't have no sense. Sometimes we get so filled with jealousy when we start comparing ourselves to others that it starts to consume us to the point that we can't even think straight to get our own work done because we're still trying to outdo the other person. And then lastly, for that, sometimes we can make a situation bigger than it really is. And it may just be a step in the direction on our path, right? Because accomplishing your goals isn't always a cakewalk. Most of the times it's not. It's not a cakewalk at all. We have obstacles, we have setbacks, we have detours we have to take. All of those things happen. And so sometimes we make every situation, when we start looking at other people, we make every situation bigger than it really is. And we start to question our own purpose and our own destiny. But guess what? If you know it's for you, it's for you. If you know that you're destined to be a speaker, an author, if you know that you are destined to be the CEO of your own company, it doesn't matter how many times you get set back. You know that's for you. And who can take that from you but you? And you just have to make up in your mind that no matter what happens, I'm not looking at what they did and how fast they did it. Because I'm running my own race, like Gil said earlier. And that's literally all we can do. I can't run your race for you. I can't take your test for you. You can't cheat off my paper. Not in life. In life, we have to make our own way, and we have to get there in our own timing. So how does this comparison trap affect our confidence, right? Because believe it or not, I mentioned earlier that sometimes we use comparing ourselves to others as a self-esteem booster because we're like, I'm not where she is. I'm not working at this place no more. And I'm obviously not going to call out places because I don't need nobody, feeling no kind of way. Because there's nothing wrong with, never mind. So yeah, you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm not where I used to be. I'm not homeless like I used to be. I have at least some change in my pocket. I can buy myself food. And that's the one extreme. But on the other end, you can say to yourself, I finished college. And for some of our families, we may be the first to finish college. And so we feel good about ourselves because our sibling, our cousin, our uncle, our aunt, our parents, they didn't finish college. And that makes you feel good about yourself, like you've outdone someone or you've made and it's a big accomplishment when you're the first to do something in your family. I'm not downplaying that whatsoever. But you cannot use that someone else did the best they could do for where they're at, and you deciding that that's the best you can do because of where they're at. You have to do the best that you can do for what you're capable of doing and for where you're at mentally, emotionally, spiritually. College might have been way too much for some of our family members because they may not have been prepared for that kind of freedom, to not have somebody over your back telling you what to do. So to each his own, you know? It affects our confidence because we're less likely to take risks. So have you ever been in a place where you felt like because you didn't accomplish something in 3 years, I don't want to try that because last time I failed, or last time it took me way too long to get it done? Or I love using the baby example, right? Because we've all heard this example. So if you've ever seen siblings or even twins that are babies, siblings or cousins, and one of them starts walking faster than the other, like before the other, you'll see the second sibling like really struggling to start getting up to walk. They're like, oh no, they're walking, I need to be walking. So they might scoot real quick, they might try to stand up and fall. But here's the thing, they don't know yet to not keep taking the risk. They don't know yet that they can't fail, right? So they just keep trying because they don't know failure. And that has to be us, because when we start comparing ourselves and we feel like we're possibly not going to make the goal or meet the goal that we're after, we can't allow that to cause us to not take risk in our lives. Hey, Marsha. We can't allow that to cause us to become complacent where we're at, because that's how we get stuck. That's how we get to the place where, because reaching your goals calls for risk taking, calculated risk, yes, but it has to be risk that you have thought through, which leads me to my second point. Or on the opposite end of that spectrum, we can take risks that are way too big for what we're capable of doing because we're scared we're missing out. Oh my God, like I see my friend, she just bought a Maserati because she was making, well, you don't make that kind of money. Why would you do that? Why would you go all in on an investment so you can buy this car and you don't know what your friend did to get that car? She might be in real estate. You don't know how many houses she sold. You have no idea. But we may go all in on something because we're afraid of missing out and end up overextending ourselves because of fear. And fear can definitely do that. And we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, but fear and confidence, they're on the other ends of the spectrum. Now, being confident doesn't mean that you lack fear. But being confident does mean that you take that fear and you put it in its place, which means it doesn't control you. Right, Gail, or she's over her head in debt. That's very possible because we don't know their background. We don't know their story. Oh, we see our friends on yachts and all these parties and traveling. We don't know what their credit card bill look like. But some of us, we may go all in not knowing what their financial situation looks like. And for some of us, we want to take shortcuts because we see what someone else has accomplished. So what does that look like for us? Like I said, that by the time I was 30, I wanted to have my own business. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and give money to this guy that's, buying businesses for people. We don't know if this person is legit. We're trying to get things done real quick because we have goals to meet. We're trying to get this done real quick. I want to get this book done. And y'all, listen, we have to know our strengths at the same time, because Websites is not my strength. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Like coding, all that stuff, not my strength. I'm okay with that. But there's some of us who feel like if we don't get it done right now, we'll never be successful. And I'm not even gonna hold y'all. When I did my website, I felt that if I didn't get it done quickly, I was gonna miss out on something. I didn't miss out on anything. I didn't miss out on anything. What I did miss out on, though, and this is just me being transparent with y'all, is me getting it done right the first time. Because I felt like I had to hurry up and get it done. How many of us do that? Rush into things out of fear. Or don't take calculated risks out of fear, looking at what other people are doing. Cousin, I see you. Antoine. But it also comes out in our conversations. When we compare ourselves to other people, there's some of us that can't even take compliments, right? We can't even take somebody telling us that we do something well because we're always looking at somebody else. Yeah, I wish I did it like hers, though. And I've been guilty of that too, though. It's something that can happen so easily if we're not mindful of the words that are coming out of our mouths and how we think about ourselves. Because that's where it comes, that's where it starts. That's where it comes from. How do I see myself? How am I thinking about myself? Because if I'm feeling like I don't belong, if I'm feeling like I'm not deserving, that comes out in my conversation. Yeah, I know, I've been working on this for a long time, but she really deserved it. But I didn't deserve it like she did. Like she been, and the thing is, there's nothing wrong with giving accolades to other people. There's a time and a place for that. But we can't be afraid or ashamed to stand in what our own power is, in our own confidence. And I hope this is making sense to y'all. Because I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to myself, but I'm not talking to myself. I'm talking to myself because anytime I'm talking to y'all about these topics, it's something that I learned, something that I went through, something that I may even be dealing with now. But the great thing about it is, for most of us, when we know better, we do better. That's right, Dr. Janine. I appreciate you dropping in today. Sometimes we can talk ourselves right out of our own blessings, like Dr. Janine said. Right out of our own blessings. We can be talking to the very person that has the ability to speak to other people on our behalf, to put our names in rooms that we've not stepped foot in. But if all we're doing is talking ourselves out of what it is that we said was ours, we don't get our names in those rooms. Because people can feel that energy, if you didn't know. People can feel the energy of you feeling like you're not worth it. You feeling like you don't deserve the opportunity. You feeling like maybe I need a little more experience. That might be true. But you better get all the experience that you can get and get in that position so you can shine where it is you're supposed to shine. So that's important because if we're thinking about what we think about, right? And then we're talking to other people based on what we've been thinking about, whether it's positive or negative, whether it's something that is, somebody can tell if you feel empowered, right? Somebody can tell if your thought process is that I don't care what happens in my life, I'm getting to this goal. And the goal isn't always the bag. Sometimes the goal is peace. Sometimes the goal is a fulfilling relationship with yourself first. Sometimes the goal is a family that's one unit. But whatever that goal is, If you're talking, if you're not talking that talk when you're in a room of people that have influence and have the ability to bless your life, I should say that, you're going to find that it's harder for you to move forward. Because sometimes, as we know, it's not always about what we know. Sometimes it's about who we know. And who we know, the people that we know, are not always going to push our names out there if we're not doing the work. If we're too concerned about, well, I want to do this, but I want what she has. I want to be, yes, Gil, I am recording this. I want to be somebody who is impactful, who's influential. But I want it like she has it. I want to be the person that's on TV. That might not be your calling, TV. That can be a desire and not be your calling. Did you know that? Did you know that sometimes you can want something because you've seen somebody else's success in that area and that not be your destiny? Very possible. And then also it can cause us to feel like we're not enough if we're comparing ourselves to other people that have had more success than we have in a certain area. And that is not what's going to get us to the next level. And so lastly, we'll talk about how can I avoid the comparison trap, or how can I get out of it if I feel like I'm there, if I feel like I really can't help but to compare myself. I really can't help but feel like I'm running a race with other people, not against myself, not against the person that I used to be, not against the person that I've grown from. So first, you have to decide that you're your own measuring stick. You have to decide that. You have to decide that no one else's opinion about you and your life and your purpose and your destiny is important except what? Yours and God's. Yours and God's. And I've had relationships and friendships with people who, if their parents didn't say they could do it, or they could become it, or they could accomplish it, and they felt like it was impossible. Or they wouldn't even consider it. I'm not even going to consider doing that. My parents said I would never accomplish that. They can't be your measuring stick either. Because all they know is how much they've accomplished. And because they haven't, here's the thing about when your vision is stretched. When you put people, when you, James. So I was just talking about running a race, and James said, when you're running, just start tripping people. That's how you win. You just start tripping people. But when you're on your way to somewhere where the people around you have not been, their vision has not been stretched, there are some people that are going to try to stop you from accomplishing those goals just because they haven't seen anything that big before. They haven't seen that kind of success before. They haven't seen that kind of impact before in their lifetime or in their circle of influence. And you can be that, but not if you are depending on where they said you can be, where they said you can go, how high they said you can go. I'm sure you know by now that the sky is the limit, and not even the sky. You are the limit. Whatever your ceiling is that you put on your life, that's your limit. Look, Gil, that's what I say every session. James is a whole problem. A whole problem. You stay clowning in here. But your mindset and your actions is what determines your level of success, not somebody else's word over your life, right? You can control that. You can control your actions and your thoughts, your mindset. So it takes a mindset shift. That's the first thing. So secondly, practicing gratitude. That sounds so simple, right? Just being grateful for where you're at, the growth that you've accomplished, your life, your opportunities that are presented to you, and being on the right path for you. Not on the same path your dad was on, not on the same path your grandfather was on, but the path that's for you. And it may look totally different from the rest of your family. They may be okay with working, a 9 to 5, but your path may take you to entrepreneurship. You can't get stuck in your 9 to 5 because that's what your family said that you should be, because that's not your path. And you know whether or not you feel that that's what you're called to do or not. It's just a matter of you stepping out on faith and doing what you know is right for you. And then thirdly, you want to acknowledge and celebrate where you're at. Celebrate every accomplishment that you have made. That's how you stop looking at what other people are doing. Don't wait for other people to celebrate you. Celebrate yourself. But also, don't be afraid to celebrate other people's wins. Thank you so much, Dr. Janine. I'm glad you caught me tonight, too. Glad I was able to see you in the building. But yeah, you can't allow that, like other people's accomplishments, to keep you stuck feeling like, oh man, they won another award. They're here again. No, celebrate them too. And celebrate yourself as well. And then lastly, use situations of comparison to get inspired to create and push yourself even harder towards your goals. There's no roadblock. There is nothing saying I can't become what I want to become except our minds. So it's time to stop comparing. It's time to stop thinking that we can't get above, we can't get beyond, we can't get through whatever things might be put in our way. Because it's yours, right? You got to go get it. If it's the marriage that you want that's yours and you feel like there are all these roadblocks in the way, there are all these conflicts in the way, you go get that. If it's a job, if it's a business, if it's a career, whatever it is, you got to go get that and know that it's yours. So as I end, listen, you're an individual with your own mind, your own aspirations, your own path. It's up to you to walk in your purpose and to walk in your own power. As always, if you guys have not yet been to my website to grab my book, You Are Enough, and I always make this disclaimer, it's subtitled Rebuilding Your Confidence After Divorce. But guess what? Some of us need to rebuild confidence, period. So you'll go ahead to boldvibesllc.com. Grab that book for a friend, sister, cousin, yourself. You might need to read it. It might bless your life. Adrian, Dr. Gentry, thank you for showing up. But I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, for stopping in. I hope you guys took away some really good points. The full recording is going to be on Facebook, and I will see you guys Thursday night, same time, 10 p.m. Have a good one.